just imagine what Jodie Comer and Stephen Graham can create when they work together.
Well, imagine no more. This is the project that they've been working on. It's Channel 4's new drama, Help. Wow. And Jodie and Stephen join us now. How lovely to see you.
Hi.
Thank you for coming in.
It's lovely having you here.
Stephen, so this is at a dinner at an awards, and you're with BAFTA-winning writer Jack Thorne, and that's where this starts.
Yeah, more or less, yeah. That's its inception. And I just said, Jack, do us a favour. Would you write something for me and Jodie, please? I'd love to work with her. And he went, funny enough, she said the same thing. And then he just went off, and then a few months later, he dropped the first draft of the script, and it was just brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. What he produced, just couldn't put it down, could you?
No. And then we found Jack had worked with Mark Munden before, who was our director, and Jack kindly introduced us to Mark, and we all got together, and yeah, and then that's how the kind of partnership came to be.
So this is such an important story, this one that you're telling, because this really shines a light on care homes during the pandemic and everything that happened there, and it really tells the story from inside. And so if you could just set up the story a little bit, because you play Sarah, don't you, who's one of the care workers.
Yeah. So we initially meet Sarah, and she's had an interview for a job at the care home. And she's kind of defeated, you know. She didn't do well in school. She feels like she has very little to offer the world. Her family doesn't really believe in her. And she goes to this interview as a last chance to earn some money and get a job. And little does she know, she ends up kind of like finding her vocation and makes some really gorgeous, unlikely friendships with some of the residents, one of them being Tony, who's played by Stephen. And then the pandemic hits, and it's kind of just about how their world got turned upside down and what they had to deal with. And
Tony is early onset dementia.
Yeah. And I worked with a wonderful woman called Nikki from the Rare Dementia Centre. And that was part of my research. It was really... wanted to try and place a character who was... play the man and not the illness, do you know what I mean? And I had lots of coffee mornings with the group, because I had to isolate for 10 days, didn't I, during rehearsals, because Hannah and the kids got COVID, and so you know what the rules and regulations are like these days. So I had to isolate for 10 days. But it was a blessing in disguise, because I really got to jump right into the character and spend so much time with these wonderful people. And then I felt like I had an obligation and a duty to play their truth, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And that seems that this is what this really does. Although we know the story, we know what happened and how awful it was for anybody in a care home at that time, there's a bit of beauty in here because of the relationships between the care workers and the residents.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the biggest thing for me. You know, I was fortunate enough, again, we had access to speak with people, and I spoke to a couple of carers around the UK, and I think what Jack has also captured so beautifully is the happiness, is the joy.
Life before it happened.
Exactly. Like, these people provide a home, they provide love. They're essentially a family, you know. There is no black and white, us and them. And hopefully we've really captured that as well, because they're not these kind of dark places, you know, when you think of a care home. There's so much light.
And sometimes they get a bad rep, as we know, do you know what I mean? There's been lots of bad things said about care homes. But with the research that we did, the amount of beauty that's in there, and for me personally, the people that do that line of work, I mean, not just bathing somebody and taking them to the toilet and looking after them in that respect and feeding them in that important part of their lives, but also being that spiritual connection for someone, do you know what I mean? You might be the only person they spend the day with. So to interact with them, I think it takes a special quality and a really beautiful type of person to be able to do that job.
Well, you're both... I mean, this is a passion project for both of you. You're both executive producers. You're desperate to work with each other, and also, more importantly, you wanted to be in Liverpool.
Yeah. I've never really been able to do that, and it felt like a celebration in a way. Especially with Sarah, you know, there's part of me that is Sarah, and there's so many women who I know who have that kind of fire and passion within them. So it was incredible to be able to go back to Liverpool. And
your mum cooked?
She did.
That's always a bonus, isn't it?
Want to make the best scouts in the world.
And then I got judged for me mint sauce use. Couldn't believe it.
Go on, tell us why. What was wrong with it?
Oh no, it was I put like a huge dollop of mint sauce, and then it was actually on Loose Women. It was like, can you put mint sauce on anything other than lamb? And I was like, yes, you can.
She put brown sauce in scouse.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's like almost like a another version of a Lancashire hot pot. You put brown sauce in Lancashire hot pot, or at least I do.
There's no rules, I think.
I don't think there are rules, but
No.
I've almost certainly got into trouble. But I'm from Oldham, so there we go. I can do what I like. So it was your mum that was cooking scouse. So what is scouse?
By the way, she's going to be watching this. She's going to be made up. It's a meat and potato stew. Yeah. So my mum would make it every Thursday, and we'd have lunch together, wouldn't we, on a Thursday?
But can I just say though, Dad, Jimmy did say, since you've been making that scouse for that Stephen Graham, it's got a lot better. So, you know what I mean? So it was great all round, really, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Stephen, it must have been nice for you. I mean, obviously, this sort of collaboration between the two of you has been on the horizon for a while now, but right at the beginning of Jodie's career, you had a little bit of sort of being part of that, didn't you?
Yeah, and she says some wonderful things, you know what I mean? But personally, I believe her destiny was already there. She's an amazing talent, and if I was part of helping that process move smoothly, then, you know, that's a blessing itself. But for me as well, what I wanted to do with this is there's been some iconic Liverpudlian roles from, you know, educating Rita and Shirley Valentine. And for me, personally, I wanted Jodie to do it in her own accent and stick her flag in the ground, you know what I mean? Because I think it's a beautiful performance.
We're just not used to, obviously, hearing you with your own accent.
Yeah.
And it does still come to as a surprise to some people that don't know you.
Still, do you think?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I've always been like, oh, if I'm doing a character, it's best to change my accent because then I can, you know, kind of lose myself and get away from myself more. But actually, it's just not the case.
The process in this was different, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was completely different. And, you know, that's what we wanted when we spoke with Mark Munden and Jack Thorne, our writer and director at the beginning. We wanted it to be very immersive and we wanted it to feel very, very real.
And we wanted it to be a piece of social realism, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was from the get-go with Mark, who was fantastic,
Yeah.
and obviously Jack, who's a wonderful writer.
I love the fact everything you've done, and you know, sort of the acclaim that you've had, both of you. But for you today, you said walking into this studio was like coming onto the Truman Show.
Yeah, I'm on this morning.
I've never seen her so nervous.
No, I'm so made up. You don't know. I watched this morning like my whole life, so this is very, very surreal.
Well, you're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Well, we stitched you up the last time you were on during lockdown, and then over your shoulder, and you swore.
I didn't. It's not technically a swear. Yeah, it is.
Here you go.
It got bleeped out.
It did, yeah.
It's been. What? Your chimney.
It looks like you've got a load of gifts.
It looks like the gifts have just.
Oh, sorry.
Looks like.
Sorry. Sorry about that.
That's only.
We loved that. Just being able to take a peek inside people's houses. We love you better when you're here, but it's always quite nice to be a bit nosy.
Yeah.
How was the Arctic?
Amazing. What an experience.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It really was. It was mind-blowing, to be honest with you. As a kid, getting on a bus going to the Everyman Youth Theatre, I never thought I'd be in the middle of the Arctic, do you know what I mean?
So this is the North Water that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
so explain what that is, because it's...
It's a great novel, and it's been adapted by our wonderful director, and it's the story of a whaling ship that sets off from Hull and goes to the Arctic, and it's set obviously in that period, and it's just it's kind of like Heart of Darkness, do you know what I mean? Some of the things that happen on that ship.
And Jodie, are you currently filming the final series of Killing Eve?
Yeah.
That's going to be a hard one to let go, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very surreal. We're
Yeah.
just about to start the final 2 episodes. So it's crazy, you know, it's been like 4 years of all of our lives, and we just want to make sure that we end it on a good note that's satisfying for the audience, but also is truthful to the characters, you know. So
We've left them on the bridge.
Yeah.
They're walking
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
opposite
yeah.
directions. I'm assuming you're not going to tell me anything about...
No, Phil, I'm
No,
not.
of course not. Otherwise, you would kill me.
Yes, exactly.
as indeed only Manel can.
Yeah.
But what's it going to feel like for you on that final clapperboard when
I
you
don't
know it's
know.
the last take?
I feel emotional even thinking about it. Like, I had a moment with the clapperboard the other day, and I was like, well, first off, I was like, to the producer, Nige, I was like, you know, when we finish, can I have one of them
Can I have one of
clapperboards? That was the first thing I asked. I don't know. Honestly, I imagine it'll be a bit of everything, you know. It'll be great to end it in a way of like, you know, sometimes if you go on and on with something, the quality fades. So I'm happy to be able to like hopefully give it a good send off, but it'll be sad not to see those people every day.
When we've watched it though, you look at that and think she's such a great character. It's such
One
a
of the best.
brilliant story
Yeah.
that I understand that as far as a series is concerned, right, you wrap that up and that finishes properly and you want to wrap that up
Yeah.
properly. But it's a great movie character as well, isn't it? Has that ever been floated?
I don't think so. I think they're kind of keeping their options open, like who knows what the future holds. But for sure, like the thing that I will miss the most is like not having to apologise for anything.
Yeah.
You know, all the mischief that I get away with, there's something just so fun about that.
But that's the great thing, isn't it, now? I think that we've moved so far away from this kind of snobbery of movies and then what is seen on TV, and that actually it's the script, I think, for all of you, that it's the script you follow, not where it's actually shown.
And that's what this is as well, if I'm really honest. You know, like those classic... Maybe you're definitely too young, and you're probably too young. But remember, like, plays for today. And
What are you looking at me for?
Because you're not too young. And great writers like Alan Clark, who made great films for television.
Yeah.
And when we set off at the very beginning, Jack went, oh, well, I'll do like a 3 or 4 part. And I said, no, I want it to be a film for television. That's what I want it to be, just a film for telly. Do you know what I mean?
We
Well done,
we
you
should
two.
mention as well, because you gave them a little mention. Help is tomorrow at 9 on Channel 4, and you work with the Rare Dementia Support for the film as well, and you said that they were amazing.
They're an amazing charity, and they are like looking to raise funds. So if you could please put it on your website.
Yeah, of course.
Please, that'd be lovely. Thank you.
Absolutely.
No problem.
It's lovely to see you both.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Thank you.